Hello.
On the air.
And just so you know, I take Stonewall to Badgley to get here to avoid all the construction.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
I take Washington, go
very
out
good
our
planning.
back parking lot, Washington to 4th, which turns into Stonewall, down Badgley, and I don't hit a single bit of construction.
And I've been traveling weather wax, even though it's closed. Lots of people are taking weather wax. I shouldn't say this on the air. They have concrete down at the end by Kibbe Road, so it's a little tougher to get through. But yeah, a lot of people.
Aren't they working out there?
Yeah, but
Well, it depends on who you ask, 'cause
After hours, and but they're getting there. They were pouring curb and gutter yesterday.
I had someone tell me just this morning, who travels that way every single day, to and from work, that she's frustrated because every time she goes by there, she doesn't see anybody doing any work.
No, they were working pretty hard yesterday. At any rate,
I know Joe Mishowski, and
Come
I
on.
know he
Yeah,
would make
yeah,
these
yeah.
people work. So,
hopefully it
anyhow.
gets done.
Well, I'm sure it will. It's got to be improving. I don't know. I take Stonewall to Badgley and just until those cones are down.
The
That's
scenic.
rough.
That's the scenic.
Right.
the
And you know what?
scenic
It
route.
takes
Yes,
just
yeah.
as, I mean, Jackie did the construction route and I did that route, and we met at the same point at the same time. So,
All right, so are we talking real estate today, or are we talking roads?
well, roads are part of real estate.
No, not really.
Yes, they are.
Yes,
That's
they are.
huge.
Actually,
Now what do you mean?
That's huge anymore.
You mean just because of the condition of the roads, I'm not going to buy something?
Yeah.
Well,
on the
that's-
because of the
yeah.
road?
That's what I heard from Mr. Bill Jors.
Well, you know, there's some
he's a
people.
lender, FYI.
Well, I understand
I'm
that,
just
but
kidding,
he
Bill.
lends to people that buy houses.
Right.
Sometimes.
Well, and I, I was
every once in a
talking.
while.
One of my constituents works at Allegiance, and she gives tours to new doctors in town.
Yeah.
And last night she was talking about the route that she takes, and she said she just holds her breath every time she takes them down Franklin Street because Franklin is so bad, and it has been for years. A lot of our roads have been,
Yeah.
and
Would you like to
She's
know an
touring.
interesting fact about roads?
I think it is a factor, though. I'm not.
I
but
agree
you want-
with you. Yeah.
You want to know an interesting fact about roads? It used to be that the municipality would only take an easement for roads. Now, the municipality wants outright title because so many problems they were having with respect to who could do what with respect to the easement. Well, the Michigan Supreme Court, in a decision 2.5 years ago, decreed that when a municipality takes title to a road, it isn't taking title to the same degree that you and I, as private property owners, are taking title. It's a special kind of title that still retains in the original owner certain rights, like riparian rights. So that if you own property along a road that abuts a lake, in other words, you got the road going along the side of the lake.
Yeah.
There's no land or just a small strip of land between the highway and the lake, so that the municipality owns the water's edge. If you are the property owner on the other side of the road, the case involved the municipality claiming that the property owner on the other side of the road from the lake did not have riparian rights, couldn't put a dock out, couldn't get access, et cetera, et cetera. And the Michigan Supreme Court came back and said that's wrong, because even though the municipality took title to the road and has this title, the municipal title, abutting the property, or abutting the lake, nevertheless, that title is something less than full title because the municipality doesn't need and didn't want and didn't acquire riparian rights into the lake, so that the property owners on the other side of the road
And we have a few of those lakes.
oh, you have tons of them in Michigan,
Right.
tons of them.
Well, I'm
And
talking about
and see, part of the issue was whether or not members of the public, because it was a public road, could then have access to the lake
Right.
over and above the private property owners who for years, decades, had been exercising riparian rights into the water, into the lake. Supreme Court came back, said no rights of the public by virtue of the public highway, no rights of the backlot owners, that those riparian rights are owned by the lot owners who abut the street that abuts the lake. Anyway, just an interesting little tidbit of information.
How far is the
That's
street
one.
from the lake?
Well,
It could vary.
I
know it could
Well,
vary.
let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I'm working on a deal right now on North Lake where the property my client is buying is a property located across the road from North Lake. However, the municipality doesn't own title all the way to the water's edge. They didn't acquire title to it. There's a very narrow strip, non-buildable, between the road and the lake. that is being sold as part of this particular deal. So that one, it's actually private property which abuts the lake. We're talking about where the road itself, where the municipality acquired the 66-foot wide road by title, by this municipal title, a special kind of title, limited fee. That's where it actually abuts the lake. But if there's private ownership of land in between the highway and the lake, what I'm talking about right now, the principle I'm talking about, does not apply, then the riparian rights are held by the owner of that private strip lying between the road and the lake. Does that make sense?
Did you follow that?
Kind of, my head exploded.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
it did.
you gotta remember.
Kind of.
I think mine was
Sorry about
exploding
that.
at the same time
I
too.
didn't mean to do that.
You kind of lost me.
The difference.
I'm just thinking about,
So
Go
if
ahead,
it's
go
a
ahead.
narrow, if it's really narrow, are you talking about if the road goes to the edge of the water, Greg?
No, if the road goes to the edge of the water,
no,
then
the road's not gonna be at the edge of the
Well,
water.
but the right of, but the title could be. In other words, the municipality acquired title right along the lake. That's the principle that I'm talking about, and that's typically the case. They don't simply acquire a strip which lies, somewhere away from the water's edge. They actually will have title, or they've acquired the right of way along the lake itself, and that's the principle we're talking about. Because if there is private ownership between the road and the lake, the riparian rights are owned by or possessed by the owner of that private strip. And there are plenty of those too. You go to Crystal Lake.
why do they
in
put the
northern
road
Michigan.
along the lake? Why don't they?
What's the
That's
big
easy.
lake next to Tappan Bee? As you go up toward the bridge.
Tappan Bee.
There's Burt Lake and what's the other one? The huge
Oh, come on, yeah.
Walleye or
No.
um,
Mullet.
Mullet Lake.
Yeah, Mullet Lake.
Okay,
Yeah.
now as you drive through Tappan Bee, beautiful downtown Tappan Bee, off to your, say you're going north, okay? Off to your left, there's a bunch of big houses up on a hill, there's the road, and then down maybe, probably less than 100 yards is Mullet Lake.
Right. Right. Again,
Who owns the rights from the road to Mullet Lake?
how far is it between the road and Mullet Lake?
It's
less than 100
quite a,
yards.
Quite a distance.
it's probably less than 100 yards,
Yeah,
but
but
there's a lot of property there.
Yeah, there's somebody owns that property. Then that property
Is
owner.
it the guy up on the hill?
That you don't know. I mean, it's probably separately owned. It could be the person up at the top of the hill, but not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, you just have to look to see who actually owns it, and it might be that the person at the top of the hill does. But actually, one of the cases I'm talking about by the Michigan Supreme Court, they sent it back to the lower court. The case is Babel, B-A-B-E-L, was the one that they established this right of the property owner on the other side of the road to exercise riparian rights. But the case that followed it was a case actually in Indian River, along the Indian River. And the issue that wasn't addressed by the court, the trial court
I've
originally.
canoed that.
Okay, it's a beautiful river. We've been
Slow.
down the Indian River, right?
I like slow canoeing.
Then you should have done the kayak trip with us
And,
the other day.
but at any rate, that case was sent back to the trial court for a determination as to whether or not the woman who was on the other side of the road from the Indian River actually had riparian rights by virtue of this doctrine established in the Michigan Supreme Court case of Babel, B-A-B-E-L. But let me answer another question. Laura asked, why do they put these roads right next to the lake? That's an easy one. Typically, that's where it's level, right along the lake shore is where it's level. It's easiest to build a road as opposed to farther back where you now go uphill away from the lake. So it was simply a matter of engineering convenience that all of these roads were built along the lake shore.
Well, as you drive along Lake Huron up north, Rogers City area.
Tawas City
Right.
area.
We're in Tawas,
Tawas.
Cottage and Tawas. We're right on US 23,
There you
sandwiched
go.
between the road
So
and
you
the
go
lake.
all the way up 23.
Right.
There's not a lot of property between the road and the lake.
Uh,
In some areas.
Yeah,
it's
in some areas
pretty
that's
thin.
true. I mean, for example, our cottage is sandwiched between US 23 and the lake, and our lot is only 100 feet deep, maybe, between the road right of way on US 23. I mean, US 23 is literally 20 feet from our street side door, and the lake on the other side is about probably 80 to 100 feet, depending upon the water level. So yeah, I mean, there isn't a lot of land off and between US 23. And again, US 23, same thing, built along the edge or close to
Pretty
the
close.
water's edge, yeah, because it's a matter of engineering convenience. It was the easiest place to put the road. Didn't have elevation changes or many elevation changes. It was easy to construct.
Lousy drive in the winter.
US 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, try US 2 sometime in the wintertime.
US 2 is not very good either.
Right, right. It's not, anyway.
I'm glad to hear that you get out of that chair and go places.
Well, it's been a long time.
Oh,
But, you know, one of the,
But I used to cruise on 23.
oh, okay. On a motorcycle?
No,
Okay.
a bad car.
but we were talking last week, we were going to continue the conversation from last week about some of the due diligence items of a purchaser. And that's one of them on this, on the case we're talking about is I'm going to ask the title insurance company for what's called a riparian endorsement, ensuring that we have access to the body of water. It's difficult to get these days. I'm not sure. I need to talk to Ron Ellison at American Title to see whether or not American Title is still issuing riparian endorsements. Because one of the things that a purchaser property on a lake or on a back lot that claims it has lake access, they want to be assured that that lake access exists and will continue in the future. So anyway,
So is that something I have to think about as a realtor now that, so like Round Lake in Michigan Center has that. Round Lake out in Liberty Township has some of that. There's, I mean, I could probably, if I really thought about it, think of several lakes.
Mud Lake,
Where's Mud Lake?
there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's one out in Liberty Township.
Yeah.
But usually Mud Lakes you don't care.
What?
Hence the
No,
name
come
of
on.
Mud Lake.
No.
Well, I don't know. The one out in Liberty, I've seen a lot of cows in it in the past.
one
In the
of,
lake?
Well, yeah, because it's mud. I mean, it's just,
Okay, all right.
it's not a lake you do anything in. Maybe somebody puts a boat and fishes. I don't know.
Okay.
but yeah, that's one of the things you should be worried about as a realtor is if you're selling property on a lake to make certain that they do indeed have riparian access and riparian rights.
Yeah. Ask Jim Spink next time you talk to him on the radio if Mud Lake out by him is usable.
Okay.
Because that's the one I'm thinking of. It's just north of where he lives.
You said you saw a cow in the lake.
Oh, yeah. Well, I grew up out on Springbrook Road.
Okay.
Jim and I rode the bus together.
Okay.
And just I remember growing up, there were always cows in that particular lake. Whoever owned that land had cows.
This is a
I'm glad-
fascinating subject.
I'm glad I got
Come
that
on.
on tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
bring that back.
All right. Shall we try to retrieve the listeners who want to actually get some valuable
I want a picture.
information?
Well, I think you gave him a lot to
I want a
think about
picture
on
of a
that lake.
cow
Well-
in Mud Lake. Send one in, somebody.
Tweet it. Follow. I mean,
Yeah.
you're on Twitter, right? 'Cause
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
following you.
Okay. Are you? Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. You wanted to finish something from last week.
No, I didn't necessarily want to finish it. It was a conversation you and I were having about due diligence, and we were talking about surveys, we were talking about encroachments,
We were talking about permits. And
We were
I
talking
had a
about
meeting
permits.
yesterday. We have a group of people that meet with Pat Birch, our city manager, to talk about city issues and see if we can solve some of them before they even hit the table. And actually, the city's looking at giving discounts to those people who put in high efficiency. So if you put in a 95% efficiency furnace,
Yeah.
they're waiving part of the permit cost, if not all of it. I'm not exactly sure what it is. So that's what our municipality is doing.
Well, yeah, the conversation we had last week, and we were going to build on this week, was the improvements made by property owners who then turn around to sell the property, and they did not lift or obtain the appropriate
And-
permits for the work, and then they give a seller's disclosure statement. One of the questions is, you know, all the improvements, did you have the appropriate permits, et cetera? And they're going to have to tell the truth on the seller's disclosure statement, because if they don't, it's fraud, it's misrepresentation.
Well, one of the landlords that meets with us is quite a large landlord, meaning he owns a lot of property, not large in size. And
You mean of substantial girth? You know, isn't the English language wonderful?
Oh.
Right, right.
Anyhow, he had asked if someone buys a foreclosure, tax foreclosure, I think we have a tax sale coming up, county tax sale coming up, and let's say someone put in a brand new furnace, but the house went back for tax foreclosure. I pick it up, there was no permit pulled for that furnace. Is he gonna get hit with, is he gonna be in, trouble, get hit with a permit fee? And this
No.
is just anybody.
The buyer.
If you,
The purchaser of a property which is forfeited for non-payment of taxes is now sold at the semi-annual sale by the municipality of the tax forfeited properties. It turns out, the purchaser now buys the property, it turns out that the appropriate permits were not pulled for the improvements. The question is whether or not the purchaser at that forfeiture sale, now the municipal sale, is responsible to bring the property into compliance, and that's fairly easy to answer. Would you like the answer to it?
Yeah. I
well,
would.
the answer, according to our the head of our department, was that yes, you'll have to pull a permit. They'll do an inspection and make sure that it was installed correctly.
Is the head of the department a lawyer?
No.
He still gave you the right answer.
There you go.
Well, I'll let Frank know that. But the other,
That's Frank, oh, that's Frank Donovan?
yeah.
Yeah, he gave you the right answer.
The other- I hope
You
so.
do have the response, if the violation, the failure to lift or obtain a permit relates to a current code requirement, it's not grandfathered in because it was never properly permitted. So under most circumstances, Frank's gonna be right, that the purchaser, they buy it as is with whatever defects or problems exist. And if the current code requirement requires a landlord to have that permit in place for that improvement, they're gonna have to do it.
We're running out of time, but I want to
When
say,
you buy as is, when
You-
when do you get it inspected?
oh, well, you have a home. Typically, you have a home inspection, and now
I mean, can you-
realtors should be and property.
Do you do that
potential-
after you say rehab it, or?
Oh, by
No,
the
you mean by the purchaser at the?
By the municipality?
At the tax sale, or?
no, by the municipality.
Well, if you buy it, they're gonna sell.
You inspect it before you buy it, and you have the opportunity with the municipal properties to actually, don't they schedule times, dates and times when you can
Yeah,
go
a
inspect the
municipality
property?
would certainly come out and look at it.
And you can look
check
at the
to see
records,
what
you can check the
permits.
records to see
Right.
what permits have been done. Now, I suspect most purchasers at these sales do not do that, they just
But I
take the
want to,
risk.
before we run out of time, what I thought was interesting that Frank had said was if a permit's not pulled, they will go after the contractor and pursue the contractor. If it's the owner that doesn't pull,
I'm still
And
Well,
the
they
unclear.
can, they can still
contractor
go after
doesn't-
both.
Well,
They can go after both.
I'm unclear. Who pulls this?
The owner typically is the person who's applying for it, but the contractor can apply for it in the name of the owner as
Right.
well.
I mean,
And
do
so-
they normally? The
Yeah,
contractor
the
doesn't.
contractor will.
The owner doesn't
Yeah.
run downtown and try to.
yeah, a
If
lot
I-
of times owners don't even know if permits are needed.
Well,
Right,
Yeah,
they
the
rely upon
contractor
the
would know,
contractor
right.
to do that, and some contractors don't do it when they should. And the municipality's doing exactly the right thing in going after the contractor, but they have the right to go after the owner too, because the owner is ultimately responsible. So this is a shout out to Frank Donovan, who's a great guy, by the way, and is very, very knowledgeable about
Very
all of
knowledgeable.
this stuff.
Do you have any houses?
I do.
What's
First,
your-
I want to say happy birthday to Bart Holly, and I'll be on the JTV
No.
today. Yeah, I don't.
Really?
I think he's.
What time?
I'll be on at 1:15.
Right in the middle of that soccer game?
I don't,
Do we
but
have
I'm
time
sure
to-
people will pause to watch me
Oh,
on JTV.
I'm sure
well,
they
and then
will.
they rerun it several times, so you can still watch soccer and
Yeah,
then
that'll
pick
be
up
on at
JTV.
Christmas.
We'll sing,
No, it's the
we'll
same
sing
thing.
happy birthday to Bart later.
Okay, good, good.
And then,
Happy birthday, Bart.
Happy birthday, Bart.
I have a price reduction. Really cute house, 113 North Thompson. Everything's brand new in it. It is over 1,500 square feet, 3-car detached garage, fenced-in yard, and we reduced that price to $84,900. You can move into that baby and not do a thing.
There you go.
And have a large yard to play in and a
Sweet.
very cool exterior. So call me, 780-3800.
See you next week,
Yeah.
week
Yeah.
after.
Somebody?
Something like that.
Somebody will be here.
Okay.